Hi, this is Chuck from CKuz Guitars, and I'd like to do some videos about basic guitar maintenance and present some topics that I see commonly in the shop. And one of the things I see a lot is people come in with guitars and they have complaints about them not staying in tune, or strings popping out of the nut, things not sounding right, buzzing. And many times those issues can be resolved simply by proper restringing technique. So I would like to start with this guitar here, which actually this is an example of how not to restring your guitar. There's a few things here that I want to show you. The first one is that the strings really should be tied around the tuner post, which these are not at all. The other thing is that you see many of these strings don't even have one wrap all the way around the post, where there should be at least one. I usually recommend more like two. So a couple other common things that I see are strings that are wrapped the wrong direction around the post, or strings that are wrapped starting at the bottom and getting higher on the way up. That can also cause some bad tone. So what I would like to do today is actually show you how to properly restring an acoustic guitar, and this is what we're going to use. Alright, so what I'm going to start with now is how to actually remove the strings from the guitar. Now, I do this relatively quickly because I do it several times during the day, but I always use a peg winder here just because it's easier to loosen the strings, and put that right on the end of the tuner and basically just turn it clockwise to loosen the string. These are going to be pretty easy to pull out because of the fact that they're not wrapped very much. Many times what I will do is get the string so it has some slack in it and just cut it so that I can easily unwrap it from the top here, but it appears that that's not going to be necessary with this one because they're just pulling straight out. Once the strings are all loose and off of the tuner posts, what you want to do is you want to remove them from the bottom of the guitar by pulling out the bridge pins. So these peg winders have bridge pin pullers on the bottom of it, which come very handy, and you can usually pop them under there just like that and pull the string out. So I generally pull out all 6 of them and just lay them here on the bench where I can get back to them easily. Sometimes they're a little tougher to get out, and you got to put a little more pressure on them because they're going a little lower. There are times where on occasion, like this one's a little bit on the low side, it gets jammed in, and I may carefully take a pair of pliers or something of that sort and just pull it out a little bit. And there you go. All the strings have been removed, and I'm just going to discard these, and we'll start restringing it. Okay, now that we have the strings off the guitar, this is a good time to do a couple things. I usually like to wipe down the headstock and in between tuners at that time because it's really hard to do that while you have strings on the guitar. I also usually like to take, this is a 10mm nut driver. Any 10mm nut driver or wrench will do the job if you're careful with it, but I like to go and just cut a check and make sure that the tuning machines are actually tight, because if they are loose, that can also cause some problems with them slipping and rotating a little bit and causing the guitar to go out of tune. Also at this time, I like to condition the fingerboard. Basically I use Planet Waves Hydrate, which is available here at the shop, and I just give it a little spray, and then usually use an older rag that's been used for lots of oils and liquids of that sort, rub it in up and down the neck, give it a chance to really soak in. Alright, so today on this guitar we're using D'Addario 8020 bronze light gauge strings, and you can tell the difference between the strings basically because you're going from the lowest, which would be the thickest string, to the highest one. However, D'Addario makes it even a little easier, and they color code the ends on the strings, and they give you a little chart on the back to show you which color goes with which string. So if you get confused, it's pretty easy to figure out. So we'll start with the low E string. which is the brass colored one. What you want to do is take the string, and we're going to insert it in the hole here in the bridge. Once the string is in there, you're going to take the bridge pin, insert the bridge pin with the groove towards the string so it's able to slide in all the way. Once it's in there, you want to give the string a little bit of a tug to kind of lock it in place while you're holding the bridge pin in. Now from this point, you want to take your tuner and set it up so that the hole in the tuner is going to be lined up with the string. So at this point, we're going to take the string, put it right through the tuner like threading a needle, and run it through. You want to leave some slack. I usually leave about that much when I'm getting ready to put the string on. Now this excess end that you've got hanging out here, what you want to do with this to tie the string on is you're going to actually wrap it towards the center of the headstock and bring it back under the string and then pull on it so it kinks some and holds itself in place. Once you've got it there and it's actually wrapped under the string, you want to kink it over the string to create a loop, which is going to lock it in place when you start to actually wrap the string. Then I'm going to take my peg winder and put that on the tuner, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise so it wraps this direction, and as you see, as it's wrapping around, the string is actually pulling on the loop and locking it in place so the string won't slip. You always want to make sure that your string is winding down so it's actually pulling it downward towards the nut. And you want to get about 2 wraps in there, so that's about perfect. And at this point, the string is good until it's ready to be tuned. And then I just cut the excess off and move on to the A string. And follow the same procedure for the A string and the D string. Kind of lock it in place there. Line it up with the tuner. Make your loop to tie it. And then go ahead and wind it. Okay, so now we have the E, A, and D strings on the guitar. As you can see, each one's in its proper nut slot, and they're wrapped going from the inside of the headstock around the tuner towards the outside. This basically puts them through the nut with as little pull as possible. If you were to wrap them the opposite direction, the string would actually have more of an angle here to the left or to the right, and would cause it to bind in the nut. So you always want to make sure you wrap from the inside of the headstock towards the outside. Now we're going to start with the G string, which is a little different than what we did on the lower strings. We're still going to put the string right in the bridge hole, put the bridge pin in with the slot towards the string, pull it tight. So that's no different. It's going to go right in, slot in the nut here. Now, with this tuner, we're going to line it up and put the string through the hole, same amount of slack, but in this instance we're actually wrapping the opposite direction, or tying the opposite direction. So we'll actually take the excess of the string and wrap it towards the inside of the headstock so that it's going this way. Then kink the string over to make your loop there to lock it in. And then you're going to wind the string counterclockwise so that it wraps around the tuner, and you get at least 1 good wrap in there. By the time it's tuned up, closer to 2. We'll follow the same procedure for the B string and the high E. B and the high E are a little more difficult to do the rap with, and you want to be a little more careful about how you're pulling on the string, because the fact that the string is thinner, you have to watch if your hands are dry at all, or you get in the crack of your hand. If you give too much of a tug, you could possibly cut yourself or crack your skin a little bit. So you want to be a little more careful with them because they're thinner. Now what happened down here also occurs sometimes, where when you start to wrap the string and it gets tension on it, the bridge pin will pull up some. I find it's more common on the B and the E string because of the fact that the strings are thinner and it's hard to tug on it and get them to lock in. When this happens, you just want to simply take the bridge pin, push it back down in, and give the string a little bit of a pull to lock it in place, and it shouldn't do that again. So we'll continue with the high E here. And soon we'll have all 6 strings on the guitar. Wrap it right around. And wind counterclockwise, making sure that the string is wrapping towards the bottom of the tuner post. And there you have it, all 6 strings are on. At this point I just cut the excess off. Being careful not to cut the actual string. And we'll be ready to tune it. So now it's time to tune the guitar. To do that, I'll be using a Snark SN1 tuner, which are available here at the shop. Look like this when they're in the box. Anyway, they're pretty simple to use. Basically, you're just going to clip the tuner on the headstock of the guitar and hit the button in the center of the front, and that turns the tuner on. And when you pluck the string, it's going to read where you are. Now, we want this to be an E, and when it's dead center, it's in tune. So being that it's showing D sharp, we're a little bit flat. So I want to increase the pitch until it shows E, until it centers right in the middle there with the green line. And then we'll go to the next string, which is an A. So of course G is too low, we're going to bring it up to A. And center it in the middle. Do the same thing here with the D. Same thing with the G. B. And high E. Now, being that these are new strings, they're going to stretch some, so I recommend giving each string a tug to stretch them out. Once again, being careful with the B and the high E because they are a little bit on the thinner side. I'll give you a cut. And then basically go do the same process of tuning it. E, A, D, G, B, and E. And now it's ready to play. This was my presentation on how to restring your acoustic guitar. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you have any questions or need to contact me, you can go to www.ckuzguitars.com and all the contact information is there. If you enjoyed the video and thought it was helpful and wanted to give a donation to help continue this series, you can send those to CKuzguitarsPayments@gmail.com through PayPal.